Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to yet again another League of Legends video. So patch 6.12 has been out for a few days now, and I feel like a lot of people might be wondering what are the new must pick or ban champions. Who should I watch out for? Who should I ban? Which champions should I be really happy when they're on my team or not very happy when they're on the enemy team? And for the most part, just what are the best champions at the very moment. So as usual, I got you guys covered with this information every single patch. Right before we jump into the actual must pick or ban champions, the question of today's video is, which game are you most hyped for that was announced at E3 2016? For me personally, I'm very hyped for the new Zelda game and Dishonored 2. If you guys end up enjoying this video, make sure to hit that like button. And there's another big giveaway happening. I'll have a link to it down below in the description. Alright, so let's get started with what I believe to be is currently the #1 must pick or ban champion in League of Legends, Swain. Now I'm sure for most of you it's not a surprise that he's my #1 pick, but at the same time I feel like a lot of people may be surprised that it's not someone like Vladimir. But either way, Swain, I mean, this guy is just kind of insane right now. He did get nerfed a patch or two ago, but apparently it just simply was not enough. He still does what he does best because he's still very tanky, he still has CC in his kit, and pretty good CC at that, and he's still gonna be doing a fair number of damage. All in all, the base healing on his ultimate is still a little bit too high, it feels like, and he's just not a very fun champion to face because again, you just can't really kill him while he's slowly killing you and you just can't get away. Rod of Ages Rylai's is still just a fantastic combo in this current meta of where you just build tanky items with a little bit of damage here and there and just be very difficult to deal with. All in all, this is a champion I feel like no matter what elo you're in, you should be seeing bans on him, and if he's not banned, chances are you're seeing people pick him. But if for some magical reason he's not banned, then here are my runes, masteries, and overall the build whenever playing Swain. You obviously want Deathfire Touch to help you with that annoying consistent damage, followed by the Rylai's to keep the person around you the whole time thanks to your ultimate, your E, your Q. And at the very end, when you're already tanky and just extremely annoying, you top it off with some extra damage and you're good to go. But moving on to the next champion, this is gonna be Swain's brother, Vladimir. I say Swain's brother because it almost feels like Vladimir in this current meta and how he overall plays out is just pretty much the exact same thing as Swain. I mean, he's a very tanky AP damage dealer that does consistent annoying damage with some CC in his kit. Obviously not as much as Swain, but enough to still be annoying. He also builds Rylai's, just sticks on his target, gets a lot of life back, and just not very fun to deal with. And just like Swain, he is not someone you want ahead, and he is someone late game that is just gonna be an unmovable wall. He can dodge most of the abilities in League of Legends with his W. His ultimate now with the recent change gives him an insane amount of life back in teamfights depending on how many champions you hit it with. I still feel like his laning phase isn't as bad as it should be because that third Q is just not only a lot of sustain, but it is a lot of zoning potential. And for the most part, I have to say, I'm surprised that Riot kind of just let him go this patch. They just didn't touch him whatsoever, no nerfs, nothing. He's just the way he was the previous patch, so there's almost no reason to not include him in this list in my must pick or ban champions. Granted, I don't think he's as strong as Swain at the very moment, especially considering when you look at all the statistics, but definitely not a champion you want ahead and not a champion you want to risk dealing with. But if the gods happen to be smiling on you that day and you end up getting Vladimir for yourself, then here are my recommended runes, items, and masteries when playing the Bloodsucker. The principle for the most part is very similar to Swain, but for the masteries, the keystone can be either the Strength of the Ages or Storm Raider Surge. Though I think Strength of the Ages might be a little bit better overall. But moving along to champion #3, we'll be talking about Anivia. Ever since Anivia got reworked in the mid-season mage update, a lot of people were very skeptical about her change. But following that, Riot not only added a couple of buffs to her, but they also made some quality of life changes that just made the playstyle of this champion feel much smoother, and it just felt a lot better to play her. Mainly because of the change to how her new ultimate now works. But the most overlooked change, which by now everyone is instantly noticing and people are calling it pretty damn strong, is the fact that her Q missile speed is insanely fast. I mean, that thing will fly across your lane and hit you before you even notice it leaving Anivia. All in all, it's much quicker than it used to be, to the point where it's very cool for Anivia players. She also happens to fit this meta quite well since she does build tanky AP items like Rod of Ages. She's a a mid-range mage, and she also has a lot of consistent damage on top of having some fairly good burst damage as well with her E ability. Her wall could either be one of the most useful non-ultimate abilities in the game, or one of the most useless depending on how well you use it. And all in all, Anivia is just becoming a very popular champion. A lot of people are realizing her strength, and don't be surprised if you start seeing her more and more often. So at the very moment, she's not necessarily a must ban, but she is definitely becoming a must pick. And if you do pick her up, then here are my recommended runes, items, masteries, and all that good stuff. Pretty self-explanatory for the most part. You obviously want something like Rod of Ages and Zhonya's because you are a mid-range mage. And Thunderlords is great because you have a lot of consistent damage with your ult, and this helps with your burst. But let's move on to the next champion in this list, and that's going to be Fizz. So compared to the previous patch, I mean, Fizz isn't as strong because he did receive some nerfs this patch, but those nerfs were not enough to just stop him completely. He's still Fizz, he's still going to be doing what he did in the previous patch, just maybe not as effectively, but still more than enough. He can still be played to success as an AP mid laner, a top lane bruiser with Triforce, or a tanky top laner as well. He's got some nice base damage, he's got a lot of mobility, it's hard to kill him, he's got a lot of invulnerability, his W still does % damage, which is fantastic against the current tank meta. Or I guess the pseudo-ish tank meta with the tanky assassins and the tanky AP mages. But let's be completely honest, no one watching this video, unless you're just a master at facing Fizz, actually wants to face Fizz, whether you're facing him mid lane or top lane. It's too risky, there's too many things he can do that's somewhat unpredictable, and if God forbid he ever gets ahead and gets fed, well, I mean, it's just not going to be very easy or fun to stop him. So if you wake up one day and you decide, you know what, I want to tilt whoever I'm playing against today and pick Fizz, then here are my recommended runes, items, and masteries for playing tank Fizz in the top lane. I talked about Bruiser Triforce Fizz in the previous video, and I will be talking about AP Fizz coming up soon in a video. Either way, this build should be familiar: Iceborne Gauntlet, Sunfire, and all that absolutely disgustingly horrid stuff. The next champion we'll be discussing is, I'm sure, one that you did not expect to see. Hecarim has been somewhat non-existent for several patches now, but I feel like he's back better than ever. Ever since Triforce got reworked, it took a patch or two for people to kind of catch up to it and understand, you know, maybe who else could be very strong with it, but Hecarim, he is re-emerging. The new Triforce on him is just simply better than before, and my goodness is he just ridiculously strong. I also want to give quick mention to Kindred as sort of an honorable mention for this spot, because I mean, usually I would put Kindred here, but I've been putting that champion in every single must pick or ban list. I feel like it's getting a little stale, so I want to spice things up a bit. And even though Kindred is still fantastic, I mean, there are definitely champions that are just as good, if not even maybe better now. And in my truthful opinion, Hecarim is probably one of those champions. Every single time I've ever seen a Hecarim, whether it's on my team, whether it's on the enemy team, this horseman has been absolutely destroying. He just does so much damage with that new Trinity Force. He builds pure tank after it. You cannot kill him. You just simply cannot kill him. He's dashing across, getting to your backline at the press of a button. I don't know how else to explain it other than the fact that he'll be killing everything and you just won't be killing him. If Swain just wasn't so disgustingly perfect for this current meta, I think Hecarim would be my most overpowered or most, must pick or ban champion for this patch. I'm honestly terrified if I ever see a Hecarim on the enemy team, and I'm very happy to see one on my team. So please, please, please watch out for this champion, and I highly recommend picking him up. And if you are wise enough to pick him up, especially for the jungle, then here are my recommended build paths to play him to success. Again, all you want to do is get that Trinity Force and just go pure tank, and you will be doing more than enough damage and be very difficult to kill. But speaking of junglers that are tanky and do a lot of damage but don't have to build pure damage and are also very tilting and can get to your squishy and flip him back and even annihilate their face, well, Volibear is no exception. I mean, this guy is also returning and he's gonna be very strong. Just like Hecarim, I'm starting to see this guy very frequently, and every time I do see him, he is pretty damn annoying. Granted, not as strong as Hecarim, but not too far from it. I always look at statistics whenever making this video to combine that with my own personal opinion and from what I've been noticing when playing ranked, and Hecarim across the board has just been a very high win rate champion. So I mean, it all just comes together and there's really no reason not to include him in this. Now again, Volibear is definitely up and coming. I mean, a lot of people are starting to ban him and pick him right now, but it's only going to increase. So just consider this to be a heads up. One of the things that I feel like makes Vladimir just so ridiculously annoying and strong is the fact that his passive is very hard to kind of predict and how much it's going to actually heal him. There are so many times where I've seen people try to finish off a wounded Vladimir, but they just simply can't kill him. I mean, his passive is just keeping him up just barely to the point where they just die instead. But on top of this, I mean, as you see in this example right here, tower diving with his passive is just so damn easy. I mean, if I was that Yasuo, I would be so insanely tilted that I would probably rage quit right then and there. Well, actually, in fact, I did play a Yasuo game top lane where I was camped by a Volibear in my journey to Masters in the previous episode, which if you haven't checked it out, highly recommend you do. But either way guys, Volibear, just like Hecarim, very strong, up and coming. Highly recommend watching out for him, but here are my recommended runes, items, and masteries when playing the bear. Very similar concept to the Hecarim and pretty much every single champion we've been talking about. You build maybe 1 or 2 damage items, but for the most part you're building tanky items. Because again, Volibear does have % damage from his W, and your main job is to flip the carries while still having good base damage with your ultimate on as well. And the final champion I'll be talking about before a couple of honorable mentions is Aurelia. She was in my must pick or ban champions for patch 6.11. Nothing really changed with her this patch. She's still quite fantastic. She has a high ban rate. She's got a solid win rate. The new Trinity Force is still fantastic on her. I mean, it just all comes together. There's really no reason not to include her. She's a fantastic example of a top lane champion that can build 1 damage item, go pure tank, and still be able to do consistently the highest damage on your team. Whether that's because of her W true damage, maybe the extra attack speed now gained from the Trinity Force, or all together with her stun as well, maybe lowered CC reduction and teamfight thanks to her passive, it all comes together. Aurelia is a fantastic champion, very strong as well in the current meta. I don't really think she's overpowered or anything, but I definitely think she's much too risky of a champion to let through the pick or ban phase, because you never know when an Aurelia will get fed on the enemy team, and if one ever does, stopping her is a mission and a half. But just like every other champion so far, here are my recommended runes, items, masteries when playing Aurelia in the top lane. You guys should be familiar with this from the previous video as well. I mean, Trinity Force into pure tank and you're good to go. And to finish off the video, a few honorable mentions: Zyra support, Azir mid lane, and Ashe ADC. Zyra support is just becoming very popular. It does a lot of damage, a lot of CC, and you essentially have a second AP carry later on into the game. Azir is a very strong mid laner, but he's also very hard to play. I mean, he got nerfed a few patches ago as well, but as you saw several times, whether it's from solo queue games, maybe on high-low streams, LCS, or whatever, I mean, he has a lot of potential. He's still Azir, but you do really have to know how to play him. And finally, Ashe ADC, a champion I was very close to putting in my must pick or ban list, but I mean, I had to put other champions that I just thought were better. But she's definitely the strongest ADC at the very moment, has fantastic synergy with her Q and Rune's Hurricane. Her ultimate is among the best in the game, and I mean, she's just very strong, scales well, and not a champion you want to take lightly. But there you guys have it, my must pick or ban champions for patch 6.12 or patch 6.12, with a couple of honorable mentions thrown in there. If you did find this video useful, informative, or whatever, then let me know by hitting that like button. Make sure to answer the question at the beginning of the video in the comments below. I'm very curious to see what you guys say. But either way guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you for the next video. Peace.